everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Darian and today I'm going to be doing my February and March wrap-up. So you may have noticed I didn't do a wrap-up for February. That's because my March was very busy. I really wanted to get my bookshelf reorganization video done, which kind of meant sacrificing my February wrap-up because I really did not have much time to do any sit-down videos in February, hence why I'm combining the two wrap-ups today. But then I was thinking I have 17 books to talk about today because I read 17 books over February and March, obviously. And I was trying to think of an interesting thing I could do with this video. By the way, my window is open because it's very hot in my room right now. So I'm sorry for any noises you hear, but I was trying to think of something interesting to do that would make this video more interesting to watch instead of me just talking about 17 books. I feel like that would be kind of boring, I don't know. So I was like, why don't we add some alcohol to the mix? So I'm going to be doing a tipsy wrap up, okay? Drunk, if you will, although, I don't know, don't call the cops. This is only my second glass, but I am quite a lightweight, so this is no problem for me. Anyways, so we're gonna try to wrap up these 17 books. Now some of these I read way back at the beginning of February, and that probably means I won't remember much about them because 2 months in Darian years is like 8 years time, and I barely remember books enough as it is now. So we're just gonna do our best, but I thought it would be a fun video. I don't know, maybe it's not, we'll see. But let's just get started because, like I've said 80,000 times, there are 17 books to talk about, and we all know I love to talk, so alright, let's get started. So I'm gonna go in the order that I read all these books. So the first book that I read way back in February was Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir, which is the third book in the Ember and the Ashes series. And this was also my priority read in February, and I did complete it in February. So if you watch my TBRs, you know what I'm talking about. But yes, the third book in the Ember and the Ashes series, and I was very happy to finally continue the series because it's been like a year and a half since I read the second book. So there was a lot of stuff in this book that I was having a bit of trouble remembering and understanding, but Lisa and Casey were there to help me. I'm always very bad at explaining this series, but you basically got your three main characters. They're all right here, okay? You got Laya, you got, that's not Laya, that's Elias, Laya, wow, the sun is not helping me, Laya, Helene. Those are like the three main characters. And at the beginning of the first book, Elias and Helene are part of the Marshall Empire, and Laya is a scholar, and the Marshalls kind of overrule the scholars, like they rule over them. You know what I mean? Elias is thinking of deserting the Marshall Empire, and Laya actually goes undercover and is a spy at the academy that they both train at in an attempt to save her brother's life. She's trying to find out where he is, so she's helping this rebel group. She's infiltrating the academy, and it's great fun. It's actually not that fun, it's very sad. But this third book is probably my least favorite in the quartet. I still really liked it, okay? Obviously I love every book Sabaa Tahir writes, and I love every book in the series, but I did give this book 4 stars. I thought it was kind of boring at parts. I thought it dragged for like the first 75% of the book, and I was still interested. Like, I am very invested in these characters at this point, except Helene I still don't like after reading the last book, but I will get to that later. I don't know, this book just dragged a bit for me, but then the ending, there was a lot going on in the ending, so the ending definitely saved. Like, I was thinking this book might be a 3.5, but the ending definitely raised it back up to a 4. So in the end, I really enjoyed this, and I was very excited to read the last book, which I did read, but we're not there yet, so one down. The next book I read in February, and a book I'm very nervous to talk about, is Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. And this is the second book in the Brown Sisters trilogy, which is a series of romance companion novels. This is the second one. I think I just said that, but you're basically just following these 3 sisters as they each meet a guy and you follow their romance. And this book I didn't love. And I know a lot of people, this is their favorite book in the series, and so far, I mean, I've only read the first 2, but so far I like Chloe Brown a lot more. My main problem with this book was Dani. Please hold your tomatoes. I know everyone loves her, and like, I didn't hate her, she's fine, but I don't know, I didn't agree with everything she did or said in this book. And like, basically she is a PhD student at this university, and what's his name? Zaf? Zaf is the security guard, and like they immediately have this attraction to each other. And then one day there's this fire drill and Zaf rescues Danny from an elevator, and like he's seen carrying her out, and then people are like taking videos and pictures, and they end up going viral because people think that they're dating. They're like, oh my god, couple goals, blah blah blah. And so they decide to keep fake dating because it helps bring attention to Zaf's charity that he has. Also, I loved Zaf. He deals a lot with anxiety, and I thought the anxiety rep in this book was great. And there's one really great scene of Zaf having a panic attack and Danny helping him through it, and that scene, I will give her this, she reacted perfectly in that situation, so I really appreciated that. But the whole like third act breakup, I don't know, I didn't like it. I mean, I don't like it most of the time in romance books, but I didn't like how Danny reacted in that situation, and it did seem very realistic, but I just didn't like it. And also this book was a lot more smutty than the first book, so that also bothered me a bit. But I didn't love this one as much. I gave it 3.5, okay? I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it, and that's all there is to it. The next book I read, I don't have the physical copy, so I'm just gonna hold my wine while I talk about this book. But this book I read for the 20-something book club, which is hosted by Kasey and Mafalda, and this was their pick in February, obviously, and that was Bunny Hutter. My battery died and I had to go all the way downstairs to get my other battery. Life is hard. Okay, the next book I read in February, I don't know how I'm gonna talk about this book, but that book is Butter Honey that book is Butter Honey Why can't I say this name? That book is Butter Honey Pig Bread. Wait, ow. We got it by, let me look at the author's name, Francesca Equiasi. I know I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. This book was, oh my god, first of all, this book is too underhyped, okay? I don't know anyone besides Kasey, Mafalda, and Rita also who have read this book, but you need to read it. It is just so, it's one of the most well-written books I've ever read, and I listened to it over on an audiobook, and I really just want to get a physical copy because there's so many quotes that I want to underline, and I feel like I would have understood it a bit better because there were some confusing moments in the book, and I think I would have understood it better if I had read it physically. So I did. I gave it 4.5 stars, but I think it does deserve a 5. It's just that I was very confused at some points, but I don't even know how do you explain this book. You're following this mother and her 2 daughters, and you're following their 3 perspectives, and they are from Nigeria, but the 2 daughters end up traveling a lot and live in Canada. One of them actually lives where I live for a while, so that was pretty cool to see because she was talking about places that I've been to, and I was like, hello, I know that place. But it's all about like the relationship between the sisters, and also like the sister's relationship with the mom. There's also some like magical stuff going on. That's the part I didn't completely understand, but it was just so well told. And this book is also very dark, so there are trigger warnings for suicide attempt, for miscarriage, for sexual assault. That's a big trigger in the book. I think those are the main ones, but yeah, it is a pretty dark book, but it's just so well written. It's also written by a Canadian author, so love to see it. But yeah, I highly recommend this book. Like I said, it is very underhyped, so I definitely recommend you guys check it out. And I would like to reread it and get a physical copy and probably give it 5 stars. Okay, I just showed the book. But the next book I read in February is my favorite book that I've read so far this year. So far, nothing has beat it. And I don't know if I can even explain why I love this book so much, but I just simply did, and that book is The Chandler Legacies by Abdi Nazemian. And last year I read his first book, which was like a love story, and I gave that I think 4.5 stars or maybe 4 stars. Like, I really enjoyed that book. We read it for the Winers and I think we all liked it, but this book he stepped it up for himself. So is there a synopsis? Because how do I... Okay, yeah, so this book follows these 5 kids or teenagers who go to this boarding school, and I think it takes place in like 1999 or 2000 or something like that, and you're following these 5 kids, and like some of them already knew each other before the book starts, some of them are just meeting for the first time, and they each have their own past and their own secrets, and then they come together, they become part of this writing group. I can't remember, let me put this down. Do I remember what it's called? The Circle. Okay, wait, let me read what it says here, because this is an arc. So it doesn't say the synopsis on the back, but it says at Chandler, the elite boarding school, these 5 teens are brought together in the Circle, a coveted writing group where life-changing friendships are born and secrets are revealed. The professor tells them to write their truths, but is the truth enough to change the long-standing culture of abuse at Chandler, and can their friendship survive the fallout? So there's a lot of secrets. It is dark academia, but it is YA, so it's not like, you know, it's not the secret history, but it does deal with sexual assault once again, and they basically discuss like the abuse of power, especially in the school system, and I just thought it was so well done, and I ended up caring about all 5 of these main characters, and you get each of their perspective, which I really loved. I just loved being in all of their heads, and they all had very distinctive voices, and I just loved the relationships that they developed with each other. They also, like, most of them are queer. Like, I remember one of them was bisexual, and I think 2 of them are lesbians. Like, it's very queer, and it is just great, and I just loved it. I loved it a lot. I loved the writing, and this is definitely one that I want to reread. I read this at the beginning of February, so my memory is not the best. I'm also tipsy, in case you didn't know. But I just really loved this book so much, and I haven't liked anything as much as I liked this book so far this year. So it's already out. This is an arc, but it's already out. This cover is also pretty, and you should get it. And like, wait, it says here are some, what's the word? Not blurbs, but here are some, like, whatever. You'll understand when I read them. So it says, a powerful exploration of the cycles of abuse and complicity that have been allowed to persist for decades in institutions under the guise of tradition. An incisive look at the power of storytelling to reveal uncomfortable truths. Inspired by his own experiences, Abdi handles tough and complex topics with grace and care. And then it says for fans of E. Lockhart, which we will talk about in a second. Do not read E. Lockhart. Read this instead. It was 5 stars, obviously. My favorite book of the year so far. We'll see if anything tops it. Okay, suivant next. We read this big boy, House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas, the second book in the Crescent City series. As you can see, I tabbed her up a bunch. This book is 800 pages long, and I read it. I read it all with my eyes, and so there's not much I can say about this book because it is the second book in a series, and also this book and the first book are very long. She is right there. But basically it takes place in Crescent City. Oh, what a shock. You're following Bryce Quinlan. She is half fae and half human, and people don't like half fae, half humans in this world. So yeah, so sometimes people are mean to her, which is not very nice. And at the beginning of the first book, something tragic happens and her life kind of turns upside down, and she ends up being on this murder investigation, and she is assigned protection by this fallen angel named Hunt. Then there's a romance that develops between them, and so on and so forth. And this is Sarah J. Maas's first adult series, and in the first book, like, it definitely gets kind of gory, but in terms of the romance, nothing really too adult happens. In this book, like, I heard a lot of people saying they wanted even more smut scenes in this book, and I was like, I am fine. That's enough for me. Yeah, some of the smut scenes, I was like, whoa there. So there are a lot in this book, in my opinion, but some people don't think that. But this book I didn't like as much as the first book, and I was really hoping that this would be 5 stars, because the first book I gave 4 stars, but this one ended up being 3.5 because I thought so much of this book dragged. There were a lot of storylines. Like, I thought there were way too many storylines. There was a lot of things I just simply did not care about. There was one character that we followed in his head, Therian, if you know, and we just really didn't need anything that he was going through. Like, I like him as a character. I don't need to be in his head though. I was not interested in anything he was going through. We could have cut all that out. However, we all know the ending of this book is crazy. I did film a spoiler-filled reading vlog reading this book, so you can see my reaction to the ending of this book if you want. But it was crazy, and I did not see it coming. I was not spoiled for this in any way, so it definitely makes me very intrigued to read the rest of the series. And that's all I'm gonna say, but I'm very proud. I read this whole thing, and yeah, 3.5, it was good. I love Hunt. I know some people don't, but I really like Hunt and Bryce together, so that's all I have to say. But yeah, it was fine. I'm glad I read it, and can't wait for the next one. Okay, the next book I'm not gonna spend too much time on because I read this book for school and I really don't have much to say about it, but that is Top Girls by Carol Churchill. This is a play. It is very short, and it is basically about this woman who is promoted at her job, and it is about what people say about her, about this promotion. It is about women in the workplace. It is about sexism and feminism, and it was fine. I don't know, it was quick to read, and we had to do a group project on this book, and my group got 96%. So we are geniuses, but I thought it was fine. I don't have much to say on it. It's 3 stars. I'm never gonna think about this again, so yep, that's it. Next, we have The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. This was my very first Lisa Jewell book. I listened to the audiobook and I had a good time with this book. It is following, okay, let me remember. It is following this girl named Tallulah, I think. And her boyfriend go missing one night, and her mom, okay, so you're following 3 timelines. So you're following the timeline of right after her and her boyfriend go missing and her mom is trying to find her and figure out what happened. You're following from like a year before that, from Tallulah's perspective and like her relationship with her boyfriend. Also, her and her boyfriend have a baby, and that is a big factor in the book. You're also following the timeline from a year after she disappears, and you're in the head of this woman who her boyfriend or fiance, I don't remember, is like a new teacher at this school where Tallulah went to school. I think that's what it was. And then she is finding out about the mystery of Tallulah's disappearance because she is a mystery writer, and she's like, oh, a mystery, can't stop myself from looking up a mystery. So you have these 3 timelines, and the book is just basically slowly finding out what happened to Tallulah and her boyfriend. Are they okay? Are they not okay? We don't even know. Also, just so you know, the baby did not disappear. The baby is fine. Do not even worry about that. And this book was pretty good. I've heard a lot of mixed things about Lisa Jewell, but I liked it. I liked her writing. I was very interested. I did find the ending a bit underwhelming. I would have loved like this big plot twist to have happened, but it was just kind of like, oh, okay, that's what happened. Okay. So it was fine. And then like the epilogue happened, and I was like, I didn't even understand what happened at first, and then I was like, oh, okay. So I thought it was pretty good. It was 4 stars. It wasn't like, it didn't change my life or anything, but it was a fun audiobook to listen to. And I do own, I think, one of Lisa Jewell's books, so I am interested to read more of her books because I liked this one. That's really all I have to say about it. Oh, there are trigger warnings. Well, obviously in like mystery thrillers there are often trigger warnings, but for this book, obviously disappearance, sexual assault in this book as well. So just keep that in mind, but I thought it was pretty good. I don't know. Okay, and finally the last book that I finished in February was another mystery thriller, and that is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. And this book has gotten a lot of hype on BookTube. I've seen so many people give this 5 stars, including Kayla from Books and Lala. She loved this book. I've seen a lot of people love this book, and I really liked it. I didn't love it, I really liked it. You're following, I want to say Jessica. I was so close. You're following Jessica. Jessica is very full of herself. She wants everyone to know that she is the best at everything. She wants to be the prettiest and the most popular. And when she was in college, she was in this friend group with 6 other people, I want to say, and they were very close. And then at the end of college, one of them was found murdered, and her boyfriend at the time was accused of the murder, and the rest of the friend group kind of always just believed that that's what happened, except for Jessica. She always thought it was someone else probably. And then it's 10 years later, and everyone in the college is going back for their 10-year reunion, so some of these friends she hasn't seen since everything happened in college. And then the woman who died, her brother shows up at the reunion and starts basically accusing all of them. And then we slowly start to find out, like, we go back and forth between their college days and the present day at this reunion, and we find out what really happened. So it's another mystery, and I thought it was pretty good. I was definitely very invested in what was going on. I really liked the writing in this book. I think this is a debut. My glasses are falling down my face. I think this was a debut, so for a debut this was pretty good. I think the main reason I didn't give this 5 stars was because some of this was triggering to me. Like, the way that the woman died was very similar to someone I know who died, and there is a scene where they kind of discuss graphically what happened, and it was definitely very triggering for me, and I think that's the reason it wasn't 5 stars, but I was very invested the whole way through. I wanted to know what happened, and did the end, well, I guess the end surprised me. I think it did. At this point I don't even remember what happened. I do remember what happened actually. So it was a pretty good ending, and I'm happy I read it. I really like this cover, and I gave it 4 stars, I think. It was pretty good, and I recommend. It wasn't 5 stars like everyone else gives it 5 stars, but I liked it. So that's my story. So now we are on to the books that I read in March, and we started March off with a banger. I read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. This was a book. So the reason I read this, I've always been interested in reading this book because everyone talks about the ending of this book and how there's a plot twist. The plot twist is crazy. Everyone talks about the crazy plot twist in this book. So I wanted to read it. And the audiobook, I had it on Libby, and it was only 6 hours long. So I was like, okay, this is easy, gonna be easy, quick and easy. And listening at double speed was only 3 hours. So I was like, I cannot pass up this opportunity. So I listened to the book, and it wasn't good. I gave this 1 star because it was really bad. This follows this girl named Cadence, I want to say, and her family's very rich. Her family is very white, very rich, and they own this like cottage, beach house type of thing on this island, and every summer they go to the beach house with their family. She goes with her cousins, and there's another family that goes, and they have a son named Gat, and her and Gat have this like on again off again kind of relationship, and you follow them throughout like 3 summers, and they all meet up, they go, she's got this little romance, blah blah blah, and then one summer there is an accident, and Cadence has an accident, and she can't remember anything about the accident. And then the next summer they don't even go to the beach house, and she's like, why don't we go to the beach house? And no one will even tell her why. So she is trying to piece together what happened that one summer, what happened to her, because she can't remember. So yeah, that's what happens. This book was so bad, and I know this book was written in like 2014, so it's bad for a reason, but I think E. Lockhart read some of John Green's books at the time, and I think she was like, he made his characters pretentious, but I'm gonna make my characters even more pretentious. Like the things these characters said, I know they're teenagers and teenagers are pretentious in nature, but like nobody talks like this. At one point, the main character is talking to Gat, and she's basically telling him how like she didn't like the way he acted before and whatever, and he was like, yeah, that was suboptimal of me. Nobody says that. Who talks like that? Like I hated, oh my god, I hated the dialogue. The writing was not good. It was not good. And then the ending, the twist at the ending that everyone talks about, what was that? It definitely took me by surprise, I'll give it that. Although I did kind of predict like something similar happening, but it wasn't quite what happened. It's a no for me. It did not make any sense, and like you could tell that E. Lockhart came up with this twist and was like, I'm gonna write a whole book surrounding this twist, and it's gonna shock everyone's socks off. And like there has gotta be like little hints, you know, at what the twist is. You can't just say here it is and expect everyone to be like, oh, that makes sense, because it didn't make sense. It did not make any sense. There was no reason for this thing to have happened. It didn't make any sense. And it was supposed to be emotional. It was not emotional. I didn't like this book. And I gave it 1 star. This is my least favorite book I've read so far this year. So on the opposite spectrum of the Chandler Legacies, I think it's the only book I've given 1 star this year, but no, it was not for me. Gave it 1 star. That's what I gotta say. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Okay, so sadly the next book I read in March was a DNF. So I started March off with a 1 star and a DNF, which was not very fun. But the next, I don't even have this book anymore. I already unhauled it. I gave it to my friend. She can read it now. It is very hard to keep my eyes open. I just wanted to take a nap. But the next book I read was Castles in Their Bones by Laura Sebastian. This was the Winers Book Club pick for February, right? January. February? February. Why? Anyways. No, February. I I forgot we were talking about March books for a second. Okay, this was the Whiners book club pick for February. And I got about halfway through this book and then I just realized I do not care. I do not care about anything that is happening. Do not care about any of these characters. You're following these 3 sisters and they basically, once they're 16, they're triplets. And they go off to marry different princes from different kingdoms. And the plan is that they are going to overthrow these kingdoms so that they can all rule. And like their home kingdom could be the one that rules everyone, you know, and their mother is like the puppeteer behind all this. She has basically raised her daughters their whole lives for this one mission to marry into the families of other kingdoms and then take over them. So all of these sisters, they're a little spicy, they're a little wily, they got their secrets, and that's, I don't know, it was fine. It wasn't bad. Like, I think if I had finished it, I would have given it 3 stars. I wasn't hating it, I just didn't care, and the thought, like, when I stopped reading it, I was about halfway through. I still had about 250 pages left, and the thought of reading those 250 pages sounded excruciating, so I decided to just stop. So I DNF'd it. But everyone else on the Whiners liked it. So I'm clearly in the unpopular opinion, but if you want to pick it up, the cover's really pretty, which made me really sad to give up, but I couldn't do it. So I DNF'd it. And that's that. And then the next book I read was the March book club pick for the Whiners for March. I just said that. For March, which was my pick. We haven't even had our live show yet, but if we have had our live show by the time this video goes up, I will leave a link down below. But if we have not had it yet, then I will not leave a link down below. But did I say the name of the book yet? The name of the book is The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. And this is another mystery. Oh my god, I'm a mystery girly now. But this book is about this woman. I don't remember her name, but it's about this woman and she is married to this guy and they live with his daughter, so her stepdaughter, named Bailey, which is also the name of Casey's dog. Fun fact. So one day, the woman is home and she gets a letter from her husband who has disappeared. And the letter, not the letter, the note, it just says protect her. And she assumes he is talking about his daughter. And so her and her stepdaughter go off on this mission to find out what happened to her husband. And I liked this book. I was very intrigued the whole way through. There was no part where I was bored. However, I found the ending kind of anticlimactic. I was hoping for like a big reveal as to where he went, and I was just kind of like, okay, I guess that makes sense. I don't know, I just found it like very unsatisfactory. The epilogue was good though. That was spicy. Well, spicy, is that the right word? But it was interesting. So I'll talk more about this in the live show whenever we do it, but I thought it was fine. I gave it 3.5, so like it was definitely not a bad book, but it definitely didn't live up to the hype that I had for it in my head. And also this book won the Goodreads Choice Award for, I think, best mystery, and I don't know if it's the best mystery. Like, it was just kind of like, where's my husband? Let's go find out. Like, that was really all it was. So I don't know, it was fine. I liked it. I don't have much more to say about it than that, but we'll talk about it on the Whiners sometime at some point in time.
10 people died in the Bronx last night due to a fire that killed 10 people in the Bronx last night during a fire.
Next, City of Ashes, the second book in the Shadowhunters Mortal Instruments series, and we're reading this for the Shadowhunters read-along that I'm hosting with my friends Lisa and Casey. This was the book for February, and I am very late on these books. I am only currently reading City of Glass, which was the March's book, and today is April. So we're behind, but this is the second book, as I said. And you're continuing on what happened in the first book. This is a classic YA fantasy series, and this book was written a long time ago, and not everything in it aged well, especially well, I wouldn't say that, yeah, some of the things in this book did not age well, but I don't think they would have aged well even when the year it was released. So there's some stuff, I mean, if you've read the series, you know what I'm talking about, but in this book, there's just some things that are very uncomfortable to read. So I gave this 2.5 stars. I found most of the characters very annoying in this book. Clary is just almost always annoying, and Simon was really bothering me in this book. Like, I love Simon in general, but in this book, He is very like possessive over Clary, and it is just very annoying. So yeah, I gave it 2.5 stars, but it was definitely fun to talk about in our live show, so I will leave that link down below because that exists. But yeah, I ended up listening to this lighting is, the sun is going down, I'm yelling timber. Yeah, wow, this lighting is not good. I don't know what to do. Ooh, I'm losing steam, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much to say. I listened to the second half of this book on audiobook, and the audiobook was good. I've never listened to one of these books on audio before, but it was pretty good. I don't know, but I don't know. Here you go. I gave it 2.5, and I'm definitely more excited to continue on with the rest of the books because I think I will like those more. Then my world changed the day the Heartstopper trailer came out for the TV show. I've watched that trailer upwards of at least 50 times, at least, probably more, maybe close to 100 at this point. I've watched it so many times and I cry every single time. It looks so good. I cannot wait for the show to come out, but the day the trailer came out, I was like, wow, I have to reread Heartstopper. So I did. I reread it. This was the second time I've read it, and it's just so good. This first volume is so cute, so wholesome. If you don't know, it follows these two boys, Nick and Charlie. Charlie is openly gay. Nick is starting to question his sexuality when he meets Charlie, and it is just the beginning of their romance, and it is so sweet and so cute. And as the volumes go on, there are heavier topics that are introduced, but in this first volume, I don't think there's anything too heavy. It's just a lot of, well, there is homophobia actually, I should say, but there's just a lot of wholesome vibes, and they're just very cute, and I love them so much, and I cannot wait to see them in person. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry so much when that show comes out. I'm hoping to vlog when it comes out, and I'm just gonna be crying a lot, but this was definitely a very much needed reread, and I gave it 5 stars again. Obviously, it was so good. I love it so much. If you haven't read this series yet, I highly recommend, but in the later volumes, there are trigger warnings for anorexia and for self-harm, so just keep those in mind. The next book I read, boy, oh god, my card is gonna be full now. Okay, I had to transfer some stuff off of my memory card onto my computer to make some more room, but we're back. We should be fine now. But as I was saying, the next book I read in March, oh my god, I love this book, and that book was Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. I know this book is very controversial on BookTube. People either love it or hate it. I've seen only like 5 stars or 2 stars. I never see like in between, but this book is kind of hard to explain. It's about this girl named Inez who goes to this college called Catherine House, and this school is very mysterious because when you go, you are closed off from the world for the 3 years that you're there. You live there for 3 years, and they take away your phones. You have no contact with your family or friends back home. You don't know anything about the news or the outside world going on around you. So it is kind of creepy, but they say they do this to get the best results from their students and blah blah blah. So there's a lot of mystery going on at the school, and the more the book goes on, the more you kind of start to find out what is going on at Catherine House. And this book is just, it's very weird, but it's very good. I really loved this book. I am definitely in the camp that this book is great, and I hear a lot of people say that this book has no plot, which I don't agree with. I think there is a clear plot in this book, but I do see why people don't like it. But I personally loved it. The vibes were immaculate, and like, it is a pretty slow book. Like, there isn't that much going on until the end of the book, but then the ending is just a lot, and like, you never really get clear answers about exactly everything that's going on. And there was one thing that happened near the end that I just got so hung up on. It ended up not even being a real thing. Like, I was talking to Sydney about it because she loves this book, and I was like, what about this part though? Like, I feel like this is important, and she was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I definitely want to reread it knowing what I know now. But I gave this book 5 stars. It is one of my favorite books of the year. It didn't beat Chandler Legacies for me, but I did really love it. I thought it was great. I gave it 5 stars, and if you're interested in it, I highly recommend it. If you're one of the people who didn't like it, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. It was just really good. I loved the vibes. The audiobook also is really good, so I highly recommend the audiobook, but it's definitely a book I want to reread one day, so I thought it was great. Okay, we only have 3 books left. let's go team. The next book I read was A Lot's Away by Darcy Little Badger. This was my priority read for March, and I did read it in March, so good job me. But in this book, you're following this girl named A Lot's Away, and at the beginning of the book, her cousin passes away, and he comes to her in a dream before he really passes and says that he was murdered. He tells her who murdered him, and she wants him to bring this person to justice. So A Lot's Away is working with her family to try to gather evidence to be able to actually like accuse this person that he killed her cousin. So I loved this book. It is a book that I've been putting off reading for so long because I had a feeling I would love it, but I was really nervous to read it. I did think this would be 5 stars for me, but it was 4.5 stars. I don't know if I was in the right mood to read this when I did read it, because even though I loved it, like I was reading it and I was like, I am loving this, but I never really felt like picking this up. But I think I was kind of going through a like physical reading slump when I read this. Like I only felt like listening to audiobooks, so I think that definitely impacted my enjoyment of this. But I think if I reread it, it would definitely be a 5 stars. I just really loved the atmosphere in this book, the writing. This was Darcy Little Badger's debut, and the writing in this is just so good. A Lot's Away and her family are indigenous, and that is just a great perspective to see in books. And she has a ghost dog named Kirby, and I loved Kirby. And A Lot's Away also has a friend that his name is Jay, I think, and her and Jay are so funny. Like I haven't heard anyone talk about how funny this book is, but there's a lot of lines in this book that just made me laugh out loud. Like I thought it was just great, and I definitely really want to reread it and maybe tab it. I kind of regret not tabbing it, but yeah, I'm getting out of breath. But I do really want to reread this. Also, this cover is just beautiful, but I am happy that I finally read this book. And yeah, 4.5 stars, highly recommend if you haven't read it yet. A Lot's Away is also asexual. They don't talk about it too much in this book, but it is definitely mentioned, and I obviously really appreciate that rep. So yeah, I loved it. Pick it up. It was great. This book is very heavy. But yes, read it. Okay, the penultimate book that I have is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I buddy read this with Sarah from Sarah's Shelves, and I liked this book a lot better than she did. I think she gave it like 2.5 stars. I, on the other hand, gave it 5. I loved this book so much. This book follows this small hockey town, and everyone in the town is obsessed with hockey, and they put a lot of pressure on their junior boys team, and they are going into the semifinals at the beginning of the book, so that is obviously a very big deal. Like everybody in this town is just obsessed with hockey, and I live in Canada. I am surrounded by a lot of people who are obsessed with hockey, so I can relate to that. But like halfway through the book, and this is like, it's not a spoiler, this is an important part of the book, but halfway through the book something happens. One of the boys from the hockey team sexually assaults the general manager's daughter, so that obviously causes a lot of controversy, because when people find out about this, they think that she's making it up, because obviously since he is like the star player on the hockey team, they don't want anything to happen to their precious team, so they start blaming the girl, because that is just what happens in real life, and it is just very frustrating. This was one of the most frustrating books I've ever read, and what makes it so frustrating is that like this isn't really fiction. Like it is fiction, but this story could exist in real life, and I thought Frederick Bachman handled it really well. I was a little nervous about like a cis middle-aged man writing about the abuse of a teenage girl, but I thought he handled it very well, and I don't know, I just thought it was written very, very well. And I have read, this is my second book by Frederick Bachman, but this is so far my favorite, and I'm very interested to read the second book in the series, because I want to see where they go from the ending of this book. Aside from sexual assault, there's also trigger warnings for suicide in this book, but I thought it was just so well written, and it's definitely a book I want to reread one day. Not anytime soon, because like I said, it was just very frustrating, but if you can handle it, I highly recommend this book. I just thought it was really good. I thought it was really good. So it's a book I've been meaning to get to for a while, and I'm happy I finally read it, and I think it lived up to the hype. So listen to me, don't listen to Sarah. Thank you. And then finally, I'm already holding it up, whoops, but finally the last book that I finished in March. Technically I finished it 2:30 a.m. on April 1st, but I'm counting it for March, okay? But I've been holding it up. It's Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir, the last book in the Ember and the Ashes series. I finally finished a series. Who is she? I don't even know, but obviously this is the last book in the series. It's the book after Reaper at the Gates. Remember when I talked about that? Yeah. And this is, I got new tabs for this book. I finally got like translucent tabs. And this is the first book I ever highlighted, which I had a grand old time with. Oh, there's some, ooh, don't look at any spoilers, but I don't know if you can actually see, but I had so much fun highlighting this book. Like, I just want to highlight every single book I've ever read from now on. I had so much fun, but I thought this was the perfect ending to the series. Like, again, I can't say really anything that happens in this book. Obviously, it's the last book in the series, but I did find this book also a little slow, but the ending was just amazing, so well written. Obviously, I mean, Sabaa Tahir is such a good writer, but like the ending was definitely very bittersweet because a lot of really sad things happened at the end, but also some happy things, and I just thought it was the perfect way to end the series. I don't see how it could have ended any differently. So this book, like the book itself is probably more like a 4.5 stars, but I did give it 5 stars just to kind of represent the whole series, because I've never actually given a book in this series 5 stars before, but I felt like the series deserves it, so I gave it 5 stars to kind of represent the series as a whole. So if you have not picked this series up, I highly recommend. I will say, like, it is classified as YA. I would say it's more new adult because it's pretty violent. Like, it's just bordering on adult in my opinion. There's a lot of gory things, a lot of upsetting things happening, so just keep that in mind. But I really loved it, and it's purple, so you can't go wrong with that. So we did it. We talked about 17 books. I've been filming for a very long time. I had to go change the battery. I had to fix my, what is it called? My memory card. I'm almost done my glass of wine. I hope my thoughts were somewhat coherent. I feel like I did a fairly good job considering how tipsy I am right now. But we'll see when I edit this video, which will not be today, that's for sure. I have no idea when I will have time to edit this because of school, but hopefully you guys liked this video. If you stuck around to the end, leave a wine emoji and check out the whiners. It has nothing to do with the wine, but it's fine. So yeah, let me know if you've read any of those books and if you agree or if you're wrong. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Bye!